So most of our 4th of July sales obviously have come off the website. We have a summer sale that's up now, some custom stuff that we're doing sales-wise that's on the website. So check that out if you're looking for some early summer, mid-summer deals for your truck. We appreciate your business. Kentucky's got some more COVID things coming down the pipe. I guess we're all having kind of a spike in it right now. Our governor was getting ready to put some more mandates out, but I think the courts jumped in there in that, so they stopped him from doing it. And yep, there's that. And hope everybody's safe out there in the world. And we still don't have anybody on here. Yeah, we do. We've got 21 people.
We've got about 20 some odd people. It's pretty low.
They used to come over on the right hand side there and tell you.
They've changed every time I get on there. Facebook's changed stuff up. So we don't have any questions yet.
What are we doing this week? We're doing an install video this week on BD Power's new throttle sensitivity booster. This is pretty cool little unit. This is so BD has had a throttle sensitivity booster for a long time. This one is plug and play. Plugs in at your APPS on the truck, and then you can select different levels. I'll go ahead and peel this off here on the screen. So this will actually mount inside the cab of the truck, and you can switch between the levels on it. It's got a valet level that I think turns 50% of your throttle sensitivity off, and it also has a 300% ludicrous level, which is pretty well seat of the pants. You just think about touching the throttle and it's going to be there. So this will be a pretty cool little video. We'll do an unboxing tomorrow, and then we will also do an installation video on one of our guys' trucks here at the shop. And I see we finally have a question, so I will get to that. Eddie Chop says, I have a quick question. I have a Bully Dog lift pump. Oh, Air Dog lift pump. Okay, sorry. Well, the motor in the pump stopped working. I don't hear the motor noise anymore. The truck still runs the drive. Should that be happening? Eddie, no. If you heard the motor before on it, then it's definitely cause for concern. With Air Dog and the other lift pump manufacturers out there, there's two different power sources to them. You have a constant power source. It's at your battery at all times. Then it's got a relay, and then it's got a trigger wire on that. So you've got a key on power source, or maybe an ECM signal that fires that pump. So you want to, first thing, there'll be a blade fuse in your harness. You want to check your blade fuse and see if the blade fuse is popped. If the blade fuse is popped, put another fuse in there and see if it pops automatically. If it does, then you've got a restriction or something that's going on in the motor. Stop at that time. Call Air Dog. If you turned your warranty paperwork in, they'll get you taken care of from there. That'd be my suggestion on it. Check your relay as well. Make sure your cycle is coming from your relay correctly. Again, you've got constant power, you've got a trigger wire, and you have to check the grounds inside the relay as well. And then make sure you're getting power to your trigger wire. Make sure that you're getting the power to the trigger wire, and then check power to the pump. So a lot of things to look for there if you're not hearing it, and especially if it's a second gen truck, VP truck, if lift pump's not running, you definitely want to stop. You want to get this diagnosed and get it taken care of, man. So good luck to you. Replacing it won't be any problem, but you're probably not going to have replacement. Again, if you got an Air Dog pump with filters, or it's a pump by itself other than an FRRP, they do have a lifetime warranty on them. So if you turn in your paperwork, that's a good thing. Just go through those guys and they'll get you taken care of. What is a good daily turbo size for a 5.9 Cummins up to 600 horsepower? No problem, Eddie. John, it depends on if you've got common rail or not. If you've got a common rail 5.9 truck, man, I'm going to tell you probably anywhere between 59 and 62 millimeter, just depending on what you've got done to the truck, what modifications are done to the truck, and what kind of power you're looking to make. If you're wanting a drop-in turbo with the least amount of modifications that you can do, that's going to be really, really good street driving truck, would make good power for you. Great towing turbo. Any of the drop-in offerings that we have that'll be stock modification turbos. Fleece Cheetah is one I'm going to throw out there. That's a huge seller for us. BD also has a turbo that is a drop-in, and then Duramax Tuner is doing a drop-in turbo right now. for those trucks. That is a stock modified drop-in turbo. All three of those that I mentioned, and there's several others, all of those will support you up to 600 horsepower if you have the correct the correct modifications, period, done to the truck, tuning, fueling, so on. So check any of those out. There's several others. High Tech does a drop-in turbo. ATS obviously has a wide variety of turbos that they offer for the trucks, but the drop-ins, those three that I mentioned to you, Fleece Cheetah, the BD, I can't ever think of the name of it, and the Stealth. No, it's not Scorpion, it's Screamer. BD Screamer, and the Duramax Tuner Stealth turbos. Those are all three good ones, man, for you to check out. So there you are. Melton Curley, I have an LBZ Duramax. Is the cat fuel filter adapter is really worth it as far as the fuel filtration? You're going to get a little bit of extra fuel filtration on the cat fuel filters. You're also going to save money on the filters. That's the thing I like about it. Much cheaper to change the filter doing the cat 1RO 752, whatever that filter number is. I think that's right. Lot cheaper, just as good a filtration. Slap it on there and go. So yes, I definitely suggest doing the cat fuel filter. It will pay for itself and what you're going to save.
Isn't the Duramax one of the biggest things for that, the knuckle busting spacer that it puts in there?
Yeah, so the stock filter is a lot bigger. That we offer the filter head spacers that get you away from there to make it easier to get a tool on if you decide to keep your filter. But the cat filter is a little bit smaller size, so it's like Adam said, you can spin it on, spin it off a little bit easier as well too. So Cody KS, fake pandemic. I hear you, man. Blair Williams, scale of 1 to 10. How hard would you say replacing injectors on a 5.9 common rail for a decently inclined home mechanic? Blair, that's a good question. Scale of 1 to 10. It's probably a 5. And the reason why it's a 5 is because the work is basic. The work is a 2 on difficulty. If you can turn a wrench and you can identify which fasteners are holding their respective parts down, then you're not going to have any problem. The injector lines at the head can be a little bit difficult to deal with if the fuel feed tube nuts start spinning with them. It can get a little bit tricky, but no problem. You just hold it with a wrench. Getting to the number 6 cylinder is a little bit difficult. The thing that you're gonna want to make sure that you pay attention to is your feed tube alignment and your feed tube torques when you go back for your reassembly. Because if you have any hard starts or anything of that nature, that's going to be a feed tube alignment issue. Go back, retorque it, put it back together. That's just a hot job for you to have to do if you've already got it all put together and then you've got a hard start. You've probably driven it, so on. Get back and then you got a hard start. So I want to say 5 overall. Make sure you check your torques on your feed tubes and then give them just a little bit more and you'll be just fine. You shouldn't have any problem at all. John Hebert says, just getting a general idea. Thank you for the info. I was looking for the Cheetah. That's a loud turbo. Yeah, you're going to get increased noise with any of the turbos I mentioned, even if it's not a stock drop-in or a stock replacement. So you're going to get a little bit more sound. But with the 5.9 Cummins or with the LBZ Duramax, or I'm sorry, I just saw another question there. If you've got a 5.9 Cummins, it's not going to be much louder than anything else. It's not going to sound like a 6.0 turbo or anything else like that. So 02 Dodge 24 valve running a 62 mil turbo and 150 horsepower injectors. Are them a good pair? It's a little smoky, not running the tuner at the moment. Travis, that is going to be a smoky setup. The injectors are going to be the smoky side of that. If you want to run that size injectors, you're able to make that kind of. You're going to be able to make a pretty substantial amount of power. I mean, honestly, if you had a tuner on the truck or you had a box like a comp box or a Quadzilla Adrenaline on the truck would be knocking on 500 horsepower, 450 to 500 horsepower. So if you want to take advantage of the horsepower capability that your truck makes, then that's what I would suggest for you to do. If you want to get the smoke down, then I would come down on both the turbo size and the injector size. You could very easily do like a ATS Aurora 3000. That's what I've got on my truck. It's a 58 mil. Do a light set of injectors, 75 horsepower injectors, and a tuner like a Smarty. If you're worried about tapping your pump wire, this will get your timing moved around and just get you in a more favorable fueling profile than what comes in these trucks in the ECM stock, and have a really, really nice driving machine. So it wouldn't be very smoky. Truck can make good power. So that's just one setup to think about. I had that exact same setup that you're talking about in my truck, 62 mil, 150 horsepower injectors, just smoky and laggy, and there are better driving options out there for you. Have you all got more shirts in stock in your online store? Melton, we do. I think Adam is next. Adam is here, and he says next week, so we'll have more next week.
I've got a long tail question for you.
All right, let's go. This is intermission.
Yeah, intermission. This fellow by the name of John. John said buys most of his parts for us, so thank you, John. He's at a loss with his 12 valve. It's 96. New injection pump, 300 horsepower injectors, exhaust, and the number 10 plate with 15 degrees timing on the pump.
Mm-hmm.
Had a shop somewhere out in Utah do it. He said once he did the timing, he started getting a putrid smell from his exhaust and white haze. He wanted to know if that was from the timing. And he said next, this is question number 2, tows a 15K fifth wheel, up pretty steep grades, around 5,000, 10,000 feet at a time. Had a water temp problem. Now a year later, he's downsized to an 11,000 travel trailer and still has the water temp issues again. Is it too much timing causing the smell and water temp inconsistency?
I'm going to say yes. You had made mention of the 15-degree pump timing. If you had pump timing done on the pump itself and not the truck, then I really wouldn't understand it. However, if you have had the truck timing advanced to the pump, it can be done a couple of different ways. A lot of people don't. We'll call it pump timing, but you can have timing done inside of the pump before it is assembled to the truck. That's kind of a more of an advanced thing, but what you've probably done is you've probably had the timing advanced by a shop. So we're not talking about pump timing here. We're talking about obviously timing of the truck to the pump. So, however, all of that aside, you could have slipped timing. You could have gone more than what they're thinking. You're going to have that with too far advanced timing. You're going to have white haze and so on. But I don't know that's necessarily what you've got going on. Once you advance the timing in the pump, if you don't have good lift pump pressure to support that or lift pump flow to support that, the truck can lean out and you can get the smell that you're getting, which could very well be what you've got going on there. The water temp is something to be concerned about. 12 valves are really, really bad about having head gasket issues. And traditionally, in the diesels, it doesn't equate like it does in a gasoline engine. It's usually if you have a head gasket issue, you don't automatically have an overheat problem. However, with truck being turbocharged and whatnot, and the compression, this truck could very well be showing signs of overheating because of your timing issues and EGTs. So we need to know EGTs at this time. We'd also need to make sure that you weren't getting combustion gases in the coolant. How do you do that? Check your upper radiator hose after you shut the truck off for a couple of hours. Make sure it's not belching out any coolant or anything like that. So just take care of those things right there. What I would do if it was my truck right now, perhaps the timing isn't correct on it, go back to pin time it. So take your pump side cover on it. There's lots of videos out there on this. You can get the pump back pin timed, which would put it at TDC. Then you can pop the gear off the front, rotate the motor over and pin time it to the back cover. So you're pin timed on the pump and pin timed on the motor. Pull your pins out, reverse everything, start the truck up and run it. That gets you back to factory timing at your TDC position. See what that does for the truck. And then you can make your timing advancements in very small increments that work for you. This needs to be done with both a boost gauge and, most importantly, an EGT gauge. You have to work inside of that threshold of the truck making power, making boost, but making boost safely. with correct EGT. So my suggestion to you is, first off, check your lift pump pressure. Make sure that we don't have a lift pump pressure problem. Secondly, get EGT and boost gauge in the truck. That way you can set the truck back to stock timing, and then start making your advancements from there and see if you can get it lined out, man. So good luck to you for sure. A lot to that one. Call in. I'll be glad to help you if you need any questions on that. Jeff Johnson with a suspension-related question. And, Jeff, I'm going to be honest with you before I even read this. This is not my strong suit. Truck has some play between 11 and 1 o'clock wheel positions. Wheel bearings and tie rods seem good. Is it safe to say it's time for a redhead gearbox, or should I also upgrade the Y linkage? 2008 Dodge Ram 3500, 128,000 miles, man. That's a good question. So we talk through that. First off, don't just throw steering gear at it. We'd love for you to try out a redhead steering gear. They are amazing steering gear, especially for you guys that the trucks that we're known to have problems in, that I have, Dodges. Dodges. So, a great upgrade if you're going to decide to do that. However, there's other stuff inside of that you want to look at. We talk about this all the time. How do you do it? So, to look at your steering components to see what linkage problems that you have. Traditionally, if you've got loose steering like you're talking about, between that 11 and 1 bump, I guarantee you probably got a track bar wore out. How do you check that? Truck off, key on in the truck so you can turn the wheel back and forth. Have someone get in the truck and you turn the wheel between the bumps. You just turn it between the bumps, and that's not grabbing it and turning it all the way one way and grabbing it, turning it all the way the other way. You steer between the bumps. So those bumps that you feel, Jeff, when you're steering it between the ditches, basically going down the road, that's what you're going to do inside the truck. You're just going to turn it back and forth. Let's go from 11 to 1. And then you get underneath the truck and you look at everything. You look at your track bar, look at the drag link, look at your tie rod ends. Those are the things in your steering components that you're going to get that type of play in. And then visually check your steering gear. If you look at the pitman arm on your steering gear and it's tight, but it's loose inside of the box, that means you're looking at your steering shaft going into the steering gear, but the steering gear end that the pitman arm hooks to is not moving. Then you got a wore out steering gear, man. So I know I said a mouthful there, but definitely do what I said to do. Get underneath the truck, turn the key on so the steering wheel doesn't lock, bump it between 11 and 1, back and forth, and just watch all the linkages underneath of it. You'll figure out your problem. No problem. Keith Isaacs, any throwdown this year? No, Keith, no throwdown this year, man. No good, no bueno.
You're already past that date, and it was beautiful.
Yep.
We would have a beautiful weekend.
Yep, absolutely. Andrew Burbridge, South Bend or Valera G56. Either clutch is going to be a great one for you, Andrew. Either one of them. You're not going to get a bad clutch with either one that you go with, man. Rodolfo Perez, hope I said your name right, buddy. I have 04 F25060. At times it has an extreme rough idle. I read it could be an ICP sensor. I replaced it and it has stopped for a while and it started again. Any tips? Point may look at. Thanks, Rudy. Trucker has around 380,000 miles. Previous owner did the bulletproof on AFE intake exhaust, but everything else is stock. Mr. Perez, there could be a lot that goes into that. Need to know if you've got any check engine lights. A rough idle could be a ton of different things. You really need to know what your ICP pressure is. What's your oil system doing? Is your voltage correct on the FICM? Those are just a couple of generic and easy answers for you. But really needs to be looked at on a scanner to see what's causing the rough idle. So there's a couple of ideas to look at. Look at your commanded and your actual oil pressure. See if those are keeping up, and if they're not, attack it as one of those problems. Could be IPR as well too. So. Keith Spencer, can you use a CTS to check injector balance rates on the 5.9? Keith, right now it is only working on the 06 and 07 5.9 trucks, and I do not know if it will do the balance rates on those. I'll check on those, and I will answer this. On here after we go off live.
Can we go back to the South Bender Valera G56 question? Sure. Not the brands, but I've had several of these messages lately. Can you talk through why we recommend the street dual disc so strongly on the G56 versus you got a guy that's come in that just wants, I want a single disc, I want a single disc, I want a single disc.
Right.
And very rarely do we put very many single discs on the G56. We lean heavily on the street dual disc.
There's a couple of different layers to that. So Adam's right. In the 5.9s, it's a different ball game than it is the 6.7. So we're going to talk about that just a little bit. So the G56 lives in the 05, 04.5 to 07 5.9s. Those trucks, it's a little bit different because the 5.9s produce power a little bit differently. The G56 clutch was, in stock form, dual mass flywheel, piece of shit junk. Have tons and tons of problems with them, especially when you're trying to make power with the trucks. That's the short answer for it. It gets a lot more technical than that. With the 5.9 truck, you can get away with a lot closer of being able to run a single disc clutch, even if you performance guys. You guys that are running up to probably 400 horsepower could safely get away with a single disc clutch, as long as you're not just towing stupid heavy. I'm talking about a guy that pulls a 10 to 15,000 pound camper, truck's 400 horsepower. He's got tuning, maybe a light turbo upgrade, single disc clutch. You're going to do fine if you don't drive like an idiot. Now, let's talk about the 6.7. 6.7 is a different animal. The 6.7 motor is a different animal as far as the engine itself is. It moves air much more efficiently than the 5.9 does. It's why you've got much greater turbo changes that you can make, because the motor will just move air. You can support a 64 mil charger on a 6.7 truck, and it's going to move plenty enough air for just having a tuner on it. That being said, they produce power differently and they produce torque differently. Most 6.7 trucks, if a guy calls us and he's got any type of tuning modifications done to the truck, we're probably going to work you into a street dual disc at that time, because that's really what you need. If you're towing plus you're running around trying to get the best out of your box, for lack of a better word, we're going to try to put you in a street dual disc, because we know that longevity wise, that's the clutch that's going to be with you. That's going to be with you the least. Now, the longest. Now, 6.7, you guys can still run a single disc clutch, but it's got to be light tuning, and you just can't be banging around on too much. You can tow on it, but it's got to be very light tuning, like stock tuning, to stay in a single disc clutch. That's my opinion. That is my opinion, and that's the way we push our customers. So that's the G56.
Well, we have good luck at that too. There's a reason why we do that. When we push something, it's because we want to get you in a product where we don't have to. I want to say it's in a way that it sounded. We don't want to hear from you with that product again. Like happy customers.
And the street dual disc is something. The street dual disc clutch is a great invention. Fingerstyle dual discs take so much of the rattle and shit away from a dual disc setup, and just makes for a more favorable driving experience. You don't have to shut the truck off when you pull up to a drive-through versus having a lever style. So they've come a long way. There are sound differences with a street dual disc clutch because of the separator play. There's companies out here that have done, South Bend and Valera both have done amazing engineering jobs with their street dual disc setup to quieten that down. The separator plate, South Bend uses a Kevlar button setup on their separator plates that works really well. Valera actually has got a street dual disc called a quiet street dual disc, where they do a different setup on their separator plate with a locking tab that keeps it from rattling down in there. So both of them do a phenomenal job, so they both come a long way because of it. But there is increased noise with the dual disc clutch. That's just all that there is to it. So these guys, a lot of you all fight it. They're like, I just don't want to do that. I'm going to do a single disc. But you have to understand, if you're a 6.7, and I'm talking about 6.7 guys now, when you do the single disc clutch, that's fine, but you have to be able to drive. You have to know what the capabilities of your truck are, and you have to be able to understand that there's a pretty good chance that if I get this truck in a good enough twist, I'm going to glaze that, I'm going to slip that clutch. And once you've slipped the clutch the first time, it gets easier and easier to do. We can argue about it all day, but that's it, man. 024 crew cab, 4x4, 250, 305,000 miles. Motor not been broken into. All original injectors upgrade. Compressor wheel, 4-inch turbo back, has PHP tunes, edge inside. I monitor all gauges while pulling camper. It feels like I run out of boost. EGT start to climb. Boost stays at 22 psi. Do I need a better turbo, or is this could be a wastegate issue? If turbo, any recommendations? It could very well be a wastegate issue. You could also be running out of fuel or oil. I know this is to go away from turbo, but you could have a low side fuel issue, your lift pump supply issue. So the truck's just literally running out of being able to make power, because the example that you're giving me is running up a hill, pulling a camper when you're asking the most from the truck. Oil, same way. Your oil response could be going down because of this. You're having more and more wore out components. You got 305,000 miles on the truck. The truck is calling on this power. It needs to be making this power, but by your fuel and your oil system, or your oil and fuel system, which is one and the same pretty much in the Huey system, you're not able to make the power it is. These types of things right here, this is going to go into giving you high EGTs. So having high EGTs in the situation that you've given me here, Coleman, isn't always going to be a turbo failure. Look at what drives the turbo and look at what drives the engine, and make sure that all those components are functioning for you the way they're supposed to. Ron Flower, sorry buddy. CTS3, good to use for just monitoring. I have 03 LB7 with EFI Live and looking at CTS3 for just a monitor instead of gauges. I am running this CTS3 right now in my 01 truck. I absolutely love it. I'm always looking at the data on the screen. I've done the 12 PID screen. It's freaking constantly on in the truck. I'm always looking at it and always looking for how it's reacting to the tune that I have in my truck. So I love mine. I would definitely suggest getting into it. Nice look at the balance rates too, and then any of the diagnostic capabilities. Rodolfo, you're very welcome. If you need anything, let us know. Christopher Eater says, hey boss, installed a fast 290 Whisper, and I think it's about a year ago from you guys on 9924 valve. Absolutely love it, but ever since then I've had hard to near impossible starts when hot only. I have an idea. The answer is, but is that the sign that the VP is getting tired? Never any engine codes runs perfect? No. Chris, let's work on getting the power away from the pump while you're cranking. We talk about this a lot. VP44s, the latest ECM flash for those trucks takes care of the hard start, because as you're cranking on the truck, you should not, the lift pump should not be running. If the lift pump's running, it's going to be pressurizing the diaphragm of the VP44, and it's going to cause hard start. Okay, how do we fix that? You need your pump off while you're cranking. So there's only two ways that you can do that. One, you either take the truck to your dealership and have the very latest flash put in your ECM. Then what that does is, while cranking, you actually won't have any lift pump, any pressure going to your lift pump till the truck starts. And when the truck starts, you release the key, then the lift pump starts running. Works like a charm. If you don't want to do that, you don't want to flash your ECM, no problem. Run your power wire, your trigger wire, which we were talking about this in the wiring setups. On your fast, you're going to have a constant power wire set up, and then you're going to have a trigger power wire set up. Constant power is directly at the battery. Your trigger wire setup is at your ECM drop. Cut the wire at the ECM drop on the fast side, the power one, and run it in. This is a redneck setup. You can put it on a toggle switch, but we don't suggest that you do that. Run it inside the cab to your power window fuse. The fuses inside of your cab, the bottom one, silver fuse, it's power windows. Put it in there. That is the only fuse in the VP44 system or the second gen trucks that doesn't have any power to it while you're cranking. When you're cranking the truck, there's no power there. So you run your power wire there, not your constant, but your trigger power wire. Run to that. It'll save your hard starts, man. You won't have any problems. Garrett, do you have lift pump? No, fuel system is stock. Yeah.
Yeah, that's about it. We're about out of time.
All right.
Unless you got something else you want to talk about.
I don't have anything else. I guess we'll, if you guys follow us on social media, you guys have seen that we lost one of our Thoroughbred employees here, a longtime Thoroughbred employee and a friend of ours, Jeremy Davis. Jeremy's a great guy with us. Most of the stuff that you see that was done on our website was done by Jeremy and Eric, and they just happened to be lifelong best friends. So we have a huge hole here at Thoroughbreds and in our hearts with the loss of Jeremy. Just an absolutely good dude. And I feel like that's one of the highest accolades that you can give someone in any of the other things that you can say about another man in today's day and age is he was a good dude. Jeremy was a good dude, and you don't. I get to say that about everybody that you come across in your life, and that's a bad thing, but it's the truth, you know. And every time I think about Jeremy, and if anybody asks me how I'm going to explain Jeremy to them, the first words out of my mouth was Jeremy was a good dude. So Jeremy was a good dude, and we loved him, and big hole here at Thoroughbred Diesel. So prayers for Jeremy's family and his friends and everybody that are hurting because of his loss. So thanks for watching Q&A with us today, guys, and just take care of each other, man.